Yeah, dude, if she's asking for an open marriage, she's already cheating. That's my thing.
Subject: She asked for an open marriage, then cheated anyway. Dear Mr. Story, I never thought I'd be writing into your channel, but after hearing 5 different stories back to back while working in my garage one Saturday, something just clicked. I stopped what I was doing, sat down on an old milk crate, and thought, that's it. I'm done staying quiet. I'm going to tell my story. Before I get into everything that happened with my now ex wife Mary, how she asked me for an open marriage and still went behind my back, I want to mention the 5 stories I heard that finally pushed me to write in. The first one was from the guy whose wife wanted to reconnect with herself and ended up reconnecting with her coworker instead. That story hit too close to home. The second was the man who caught his wife cheating when he came home from work early. Man, that one nearly broke me because something very similar happened to me, except with a disgusting twist. The third story was from the guy who made his wife wait for sex until marriage because she seemed like a good girl and religious, only for her to turn out to be a liar who weaponized faith and purity. That one made my jaw tighten. The fourth was the dude who still had to give up his house in the divorce, even though he owned it before the marriage. You talked about how unfair the system is, and let me tell you, brother, I lived that same hell. The fifth was the man who said the woman he fell in love with never existed. That broke me because I think a lot of us, myself included, fall in love with who we think they are, not who they really are. So, yeah, hearing those 5 stories back to back, that was it for me. I knew it was time to tell mine. I want to tell the truth, not because I'm looking for sympathy, but because I want other men out there to know you're not alone. Let me start from the beginning. I met Mary in a small town. One of those towns where you can't go to the grocery store without running into 3 people who know your name and what you ate for dinner last night. It was one of those hot June days when everyone gathers in the city hall for some town debate. That day, we were all there arguing about whether or not a popular grocery store chain was going to be allowed to build in our area. Most of us were against it. We didn't want it wiping out the local mom and pop shops. That was where I saw Mary for the first time, sitting quietly in the back, nodding along when someone brought up protecting small businesses. I liked that. She wasn't the loudest in the room, but she was engaged. After the meeting, I walked out and noticed she was sitting on the bench outside, scrolling on her phone. I took a chance, struck up a conversation, and that was it. She had this way about her, soft spoken, kind, and she told me she went to the local church every Sunday. She wasn't dressed up or anything fancy, just simple and clean. I told her she seemed like someone I'd regret not talking to. She smiled, and I asked for her number. To my surprise, she gave it to me. We dated for about a year and a half, and let me tell you, it was refreshing. Mary made me wait for sex, and at first, I'll admit, I thought it was a bit old fashioned. But after everything I'd been through with women who only wanted one thing, it actually felt like I could breathe again. She would cook for me, clean up when she came over, and the most we ever did was kiss. Sweet, innocent kisses. No full on makeout sessions, just something wholesome. That was all new to me. Most of the women I had met before would ask, "Why aren't you trying to have sex with me? Are you okay?" But Mary wasn't like that, and I wasn't looking for another short term thrill. I was tired of the game: sleep with someone, break up, meet someone else, repeat. When I met Mary, it felt like a breath of fresh air. I proposed to her after a year and a half. I still remember how she cried so hard she couldn't even get the word yes out at first. I was actually a little scared. I thought maybe she didn't want to marry me, but eventually she nodded through the tears and said yes. She apologized for scaring me, said she was just overwhelmed with emotion. The 2 years we had after that were, at least I thought, wonderful. We took 3 big trips, one to the Smoky Mountains, one to Charleston, and one up to Lake Geneva. We talked about starting a family. That was the plan. We had agreed early on not to live together before marriage. That was something we both felt strongly about for religious reasons. So when we did get married, she moved into my home, which I owned outright, mind you. Paid off the mortgage before I even met her. One of my biggest worries going into marriage was whether we'd be sexually compatible. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have doubts. When you wait until marriage, there's always a risk it just doesn't work. But I believed that when love and companionship are strong, everything else can fall into place. Turns out I was right. We had no problems in the bedroom. None. I made sure she was satisfied, emotionally and physically. She even told me several times that she was grateful she waited because it made things feel more special. So I thought, great. We've got the emotional connection and the physical one. We're solid, but somehow, I don't know what happened. A sex spirit or something got into Mary. During the marriage, I don't know what else to call it. Here's where everything unraveled. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Oh boy, another guy who caught his wife cheating by coming home early. Cliché, right? But let me explain. One day I came home early from work. I wasn't feeling great, just one of those days where your body says, nope. I figured I'd take a shower and get into bed to sleep it off. The house was quiet. No one was home, or so I thought. I took a shower, then crashed in bed. 2 hours later, around 3 p.m., I woke up to a noise. I checked my phone and thought, weird. Mary shouldn't be home yet. Her shift ended at 5, and her job was a 20-minute drive. I laid there for a second, trying to make sense of it. I could hear a man's voice. I figured the TV was on. Maybe she came home early and forgot to tell me. Still half asleep, I shrugged it off and went back to sleep. About 30 minutes later, I woke up again. This time because I heard her moaning. I sat up. That sound wasn't coming from the TV. I thought, no way. Maybe she was just doing something solo. Maybe she came home and didn't think I was there. Still, something felt off. I got up and started walking toward the source of the noise. We lived in a townhome with a bottom level below the main floor. As I got closer, I realized something that made my blood run cold. The TV wasn't on. I was hearing 2 people, and I could definitely hear a man. I opened the basement door, stepped down the stairs as quietly as I could, and there she was. Mary, under some man I had never seen before. They didn't even hear me come down. I stood there for a few seconds, frozen. I thought I was dreaming. This couldn't be happening. Then I shouted, Mary, what are you doing? The guy jumped off her like he'd been electrocuted. Mary just laid there staring at me. The dude started apologizing, saying, I didn't mean to disrespect your house. I looked him dead in the eye and said, disrespect my house? You disrespected my marriage. What if I took your life for that? I didn't mean it literally. I just wanted him to understand how serious this was. But the man dropped to his knees. I'm not kidding. He literally started crying, begging me not to hurt him. I told him to get out of my house now. He ran out without even grabbing his clothes, left everything behind. I turned to Mary. She backed away from me like I was about to hit her. I said, I'm not going to hurt you, but we are done. We're getting a divorce. I'm so glad we didn't buy that house we were looking at. Then I told her to pack her stuff and get out of my home. She ran upstairs. About an hour later, her mother came to pick her up. When she left, I'll admit it, I cried. I felt like someone had taken a sledgehammer to my chest. I'd given her everything, my home, my love, my time, my faith, my energy, and she threw it away like it was nothing. Part 2. You said you wanted an open marriage, so I opened the door. A week after Mary left, I got a text. It was her. She said, we need to talk. I'm sorry. Please give me one chance to explain. I ignored it. 2 days later, her pastor called me. He asked if I would consider coming to a counseling session, just one, so they could mediate some understanding. I agreed, not because I wanted her back, but because I wanted to hear what kind of garbage she'd come up with, to justify what I saw with my own eyes. We met at the church. She walked in looking like a ghost, bags under her eyes, no makeup, hair in a loose bun. The pastor sat between us. She opened with, "I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel like I've been numb for months. I made a horrible mistake. I know I hurt you." Then she dropped this line. I was reading a book about polyamory and freedom in marriage, and it made me think maybe I'd been raised with shame around sex. I wanted to explore something more open. I didn't know how to tell you." I couldn't believe it. I stared at her and said, "So your idea of exploring something open was sneaking a man into my house while I was upstairs sleeping?" She lowered her head and said, "No, I just didn't think you'd ever agree to an open marriage, so I acted selfishly." I turned to the pastor and said, "You see this? She didn't just sin against me, she planned it. She read a book, got curious, and instead of talking to me, she found some stranger and brought him into my house. This wasn't a mistake. This was calculated." Mary started crying. The pastor looked uncomfortable. He asked if reconciliation was something I'd consider. "No," I said. "God doesn't command me to stay with a woman who defiles the covenant. She wants openness? Fine. I'm opening the door. She can leave through it." I got up and walked out. The divorce and the manipulation. Now here's where it gets worse. You'd think that after cheating and begging for forgiveness, she'd take the L and walk away quietly, right? Wrong. Mary lawyered up, claimed she was entitled to half of the value of the house, even though I bought it years before we got married. She also tried to go after my pension. Let me be clear. We were married for 2 years and 5 months. 2 years! And she had the nerve to demand half of what I'd built over a decade before she even knew me. My lawyer told me the courts in our state were marital property friendly, which basically meant she had a chance at walking away with something just for being my wife. I was furious. I told my lawyer, "She cheated. Why should she get rewarded for destroying the marriage?" He shrugged and said, "The courts don't care about infidelity unless you can prove it had a financial impact." I did prove she brought the man into my home, but that didn't matter. After several months of back and forth, Mary finally agreed to a settlement. She'd leave the house alone if I gave her $10,000 in a lump sum. I paid it just to be done with her. She didn't even have the decency to return the wedding ring I gave her. I found out later from a mutual friend that she pawned it. The aftermath and the letter. You think it ends there? It doesn't. About a month after the divorce was finalized, I got a letter in the mail, handwritten. No return address. It was from Mary. I'm not going to write the whole thing out, but here are the key parts. "I still love you. I don't know what I was thinking. I let curiosity and temptation take over. I'm not with that man anymore. He was using me. I've been going to therapy and trying to figure out why I sabotaged something so good. If you ever change your mind, please reach out. I'll always be your wife in my heart." I laughed out loud, literally laughed. Then I burned the letter in my fire pit. She may be my ex-wife on paper, but in my heart, she's a stranger. The turning point. Here's the part of the story most people don't talk about. The void after divorce. The empty bed. The awkward questions from coworkers. The Sunday mornings where your usual routine is gone. That void was real. I didn't jump back into dating. I didn't go out looking for validation. I stayed home. I prayed. I journaled. I cried a lot more than I'm proud to admit, but little by little, the pain turned into clarity. I started reading more. I worked out harder. I took up woodworking again. I started mentoring a few young men at my church, guys in their 20s who were struggling with relationships. One day, one of them asked, "Do you regret marrying her?" That question stopped me. I thought about it for a few seconds and said, no, I regret trusting her, but I don't regret learning the truth. Because if I hadn't married her, I'd still be out there thinking I found the one. I'd still be blind. Now I know what to look for. I know what fake femininity looks like. I know what manipulation sounds like when it's wrapped in soft voices and long skirts. Why I'm writing you. So why am I telling you all this? Because I want men out there, especially the good guys, the patient ones, the providers, the protectors, to know they're not crazy. If you were blindsided by a woman who claimed to be pure, claimed to be loyal, claimed to love you, and then turned around and betrayed you, you're not crazy. She changed. Or maybe she never was who she pretended to be in the first place. You are not less of a man because someone failed to honor you. You're not weak because you loved someone who turned out to be a liar. You're human. You trusted. You gave. And that means you have something the world is starving for: integrity. I also want women who might be listening to your channel to hear this. When you ask a man to commit to you, body, mind, and soul, you're asking for the most sacred part of him. If you violate that, if you cheat, if you lie, if you destroy the home he built for you, you're not empowered. You're not brave. You're a traitor to the very love you claim to want. Final thoughts. I'm doing better now. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just awake. I've got a good job. I've been promoted twice in the past year. I bought a new truck. I fixed up my house and turned the guest room into a reading space. I go fishing on the weekends. I'm saving for a cabin. I haven't started dating again. Not yet. I'm not ready. But I'm not closed off to the idea either. I just know now that love without loyalty is an illusion. So thank you for reading this, and thank you for making your channel. If even one man hears my story and avoids what I went through, then it's worth it. Sincerely, James. Subject: follow-up from James. Thank you, and a life update. Hey Stories. First off, thank you. Seriously. I didn't expect a response, let alone one that felt like I was being heard. Not judged, not mocked, just heard. That meant more to me than I can put into words. I know you probably get flooded with stories and messages every day, so the fact that you replied at all is something I don't take lightly. I told a few of my close buddies about your message, and they said I should keep you posted in case you wanted to share my story all at once. So that's what I'm doing. Just sending you this update, so if you ever decide to post the full thing, it includes where I'm at now. I've been taking things one step at a time, rebuilding piece by piece. After everything with Mary went down, I felt like I was living in a tornado. But lately, I've been trying to rebuild, quietly, intentionally. I started by deleting all the photos we had together, not out of spite, but because I didn't want any more shadows in my house. I even changed the paint in the master bedroom. The walls used to be this soft beige she picked. Now they're a deep slate gray. It's strong, cold, clean. It feels like mine now. I also did something that I've put off for years. I signed up for night classes. I've been working a stable government job for over a decade, and it pays well, but I've always had a quiet dream of becoming a business owner. So I enrolled in a small business course at the local community college. It feels good to sit in a classroom again, even if most of the people there are 10, 15 years younger than me. I bring a thermos of coffee, sit in the back, and take notes like I'm 22 again. I even got a compliment from my professor on my business plan idea. I'll keep that under wraps for now, but just know, I'm working towards something. Faith and forgiveness. I won't lie to you and say I've totally moved on. I haven't. There are still nights where I wake up at 2 a.m. and the silence is so loud it buzzes in my ears. I still think about the betrayal, the image of that man's shoes by the front door, the thought that while I was brushing my teeth upstairs, she was downstairs ruining everything we built. But here's the strange part. I've started to forgive her, not because she deserves it, but because I do. Holding on to the anger was like drinking poison and hoping she'd feel it. She's out there somewhere, probably making excuses, probably blaming her childhood or her sexual awakening or whatever term is trending this month. But me, I've got no use for bitterness anymore. I'm focused on peace. And I've been reading my Bible more, going back to Psalms. There's something about King David's words that hits different when your life's been torn apart. I've also been volunteering with a local men's group. We meet every Saturday, no drama, just real conversations. We talk about work, faith, heartbreak, purpose. One of the younger guys, he's 25, told me he almost proposed to his girlfriend until he heard my story. Said it made him pause and think deeper about trust and boundaries. That made me realize maybe my pain has a purpose after all. Looking ahead, I'm not rushing into dating, not even close, but I am working on myself. I started eating better. I lost about 18 pounds since the divorce finalized. I've been going for walks every evening, just me and some music or a podcast. Sometimes I'll listen to your videos while I walk. Other times I just listen to the wind and my thoughts. I'm also saving for a solo vacation, just me. I've never done that before. I always felt guilty taking time away for myself, but now I think I need it. I'm looking at places in Montana or maybe Utah, somewhere with mountains and silence. I want to sit by a fire, stare at the stars, and let the cold remind me I'm alive. One last thing. If you do end up putting my story out there, feel free to use everything. No need to hold back. I want the whole truth out, not just for me, but for every man out there who feels embarrassed, confused, or broken by what someone did to them in the name of freedom or modern love. Let them know there's life after betrayal. Let them know you can rebuild. And let the women listening know that good men aren't disposable, and when you throw one away, you don't get him back just because you changed your mind later. Thanks again for reading. Thanks for what you do. You helped me find my footing again when I was on the edge. Keep going. Sincerely, James.
You did the right thing by leaving. Look, she fooled you. It happens to a lot of people. She fooled you in the beginning. I'm this way. I'm going to play Miss Innocent. I'm going to make him wait until marriage. It happens to a lot. They know how to lie for a long time. Why sometimes you just got to put them through some tests to make sure. See if she says who she really says she is. While you guys were living apart, were you doing a little snooping or just making sure? I know it can come off as weird, like, oh, okay, I don't want to be a stalker or come off as jealous boyfriend, but you know, you're living apart, and I'm not saying you should live together before marriage. I'm not saying that. But you can't just trust everybody. You just can't. And a lot of times they're just being sneaky. All right, honey, I'm going to bed. You're FaceTiming with her. She's yawning on FaceTime. You hang up, she jump right up out that bed, drives over to Tyrone's house. Yep. Guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments. If you want to send in a story, send it to truestorynation@gmail.com. Here, I'll put it on the screen. That is truestorynation@gmail.com. I'm going to catch you guys at the next one.